Did the UN really have an honest dialogue with Russia about Crimea? Does Russia care more about the Crimean Tatars than Ukraine? And is there a discriminatory policy over personal protective equipment for medical personnel in Ukraine? Well, find out here at StopFake, the place where we dissect fakes about Ukraine and a little more. So let's get to it. Ukrainian diplomats refused to attend the United Nations Security Council meeting on Crimea called by Russia, and Russian media reacted with predictable hysteria and accusations, claiming Ukraine had neglected Crimea and did not want to listen to the real voices of Crimeans. For the first time, so we were told by RT, that honest information about Crimea was heard at the UN, but Ukraine and other countries only showed their disdain for the residents of the peninsula, while Russia's parliamentary newspaper Parliamentskaya Gazeta accused Ukraine and other countries of violating UN norms. Now, the meeting took place within the framework of the ARIA formula, an informal UN arrangement that allows for the UN Security Council greater flexibility to be briefed about international peace and security issues. On May the 21st, Russia decided to convene its own meeting on the situation in annexed Crimea. Ukraine, the United States, Great Britain, and Estonia refused to participate, saying they did not support the Kremlin's attempts to legalize the annexation of the Ukrainian peninsula. Because of the coronavirus pandemic, the meeting was held as a video conference. Aside from Russia, representatives from China, France, Belgium, Indonesia, Germany, the EU, and the Czech Republic all participated. Russia came to the meeting equipped with its own cheering squad, so-called representatives of Crimean Tatars, Ukrainians, and others, all of whom complained about how terrible things had been for them under Ukraine. The participants, however, refused to accept Russia's rosy claims about the situation in Crimea as facts and once again emphasized that they do not recognize Russia's illegal annexation of the peninsula and continue to strongly condemn the Kremlin's violation of international law. In fact, during the video meeting, the EU representative said,
"The European Union remains steadfast in its commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. We regret today's calling for an ARIA formula meeting in a futile attempt to legitimize the illegal annexation."
The only one who actually entered into a dialogue with Russia during the video meeting was Germany's permanent representative to the United Nations, Christoph Heusgen, who asked direct questions about Russia's violation of the rights of the Crimean Tatars and about political prisoners. He persistently tried to get answers to his questions, pointing out that all the speeches from the Russian side amounted to nothing but claims about how bad things are in Kiev and Ukraine, and not at all about the real state of affairs on the occupied peninsula. Russian media are calling Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's decision to make two Muslim holidays official state holidays strange and not at all necessary for Ukraine because the country has only a few thousand Crimean Tatars and Muslims, and any statements by Ukraine's leadership about deoccupying Crimea are strange, as Russia has done more for the Crimean Tatars in the 6 years since it annexed and occupied the peninsula than Ukraine ever did. In making such sweeping declarations, Russian media not only get their numbers completely wrong, but also always conveniently forget about Moscow's mass repressions against Crimean Tatars on the peninsula. Now, according to President Zelensky, Ukraine plans to call a working group together to address the problems of the Crimean Tatars. Other plans include the construction of 500 housing units for Tatars displaced from the occupied peninsula, the creation of an administrative hub on the border with the peninsula, and the construction of a mosque. Zelensky also announced that in the coming days, two Muslim holidays will be raised to official state status: Oraza Bayram, marking the end of the holy month of Ramadan, and Kurban Bayram, the festival of the sacrifice. It's not surprising that these holidays will become official, as there are some 350,000 Crimean Tatars alone living in Ukraine, some of whom have moved to mainland Ukraine after the Russian annexation and occupation of the peninsula. Some 200,000 Crimean Tatars live in the Donetsk region. Altogether, there are approximately 1 million Muslims living in Ukraine. These numbers are approximations because Ukraine's last census was held in 2001, and the next one is scheduled for the end of this year. According to the Crimean SOS report for 2019, today, 70% of all political prisoners in Crimea are Crimean Tatars. Russian court sentenced them to prison terms of up to 19 years on trumped-up charges and for fabricated crimes. From 2014 to 2018, Crimea SOS recorded at least 144 cases of politically motivated criminal prosecution of Crimeans, at least 66 cases of imprisonment, at least 15 abductions by Russian security services of people who are still missing, at least 20 killings, at least 290 incidents of torture, 349 cases of politically motivated administrative persecution, at least 72 cases of illegal detentions, and at least 340 politically motivated searches. Ukraine carefully records all Russian crimes in Crimea and transfers them to the appropriate international bodies. In December of 2019, the UN International Criminal Court Prosecutor's Office published a report on its preliminary 2019 investigations regarding the situation in Ukraine's territories currently under occupation. The report lists the crimes Russia has committed against Crimeans, including torture, abduction, murder, and illegal arrests. International investigators qualify the situation in Crimea as an occupation and an international armed conflict. The disinformation outlet and pro-Russian site News One republished an April 16 Facebook post by a Ukrainian member of parliament and union activist, which seemingly shows the difference between personal protective equipment for politicians and doctors. The photograph, which was widely circulated on social media, shows an official speaking to a doctor. The official is dressed in full protective gear, while the doctor is only wearing a cap and mask. But in fact, the photograph is not from any Ukrainian hospital. Rather, it shows the Pskov City Hospital in Russia. A Google image search by date shows that the photograph in fact shows Russian medical personnel and an official. This photo and a video of the visit appeared on the web on April the 7th, and it shows Pskov Regional Governor Mikhail Vedernikov visiting the infectious ward of the Pskov City Hospital. After the photo's publications, many Russians were outraged by the difference in protective gear worn by the official and the doctors. On their official Telegram account, Pskov regional authorities assure the public that medical personnel wear the same protective gear as the official in the photo and video published on the web, and explain that the doctors featured on the photograph and video are medical workers who are on vacation and live in the hospital's residential unit. The authorities warned, quote, "Don't trust fake news and only follow trusted sources of information." News One did not follow that advice. That's it for this week. There's much more dissected disinformation on our website, StopFake.org. Remember, look out for fakes and don't listen to Russian disinformation, because washing your hands and social distancing will in fact protect you from the coronavirus. And as always, if you spot any disinformation about Ukraine, forward it to us for a truth autopsy. I'm Marko Suprun, and this is StopFake. Thanks for watching.